You're being played. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Right now. In this very moment. Invisible hands are steering your decisions, shaping your thoughts and extracting value from you while you remain completely unaware. The worst part? You'll defend the system that's destroying you. You'll justify it. You'll help enforce it on others. The rich aren't ahead because they're smarter. They're not ahead because they work harder. They're ahead because they understand a game you don't even know you're playing. They've weaponized psychology. They've turned human nature itself into a tool of extraction, and the battlefield isn't Wall Street or boardrooms. It's inside your mind. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should learn how not to be good. This principle doesn't belong to history. It belongs to every system of power operating right now. The wealthy understand this. They've built entire ecosystems designed to make you predictable, controllable, and profitable. They've engineered your compliance so smoothly that you mistake their chains for your choices. But here's what they don't want you to know. This is learnable. This isn't mystical. It's not genetic. It's a system. And systems can be decoded. If you're awake and listening, if you can feel that something is fundamentally wrong about how the world extracts from you, comment right now, "I see the strings." Because the first step to freedom is admitting that you're not free. The truth about wealth is brutal, and most people never face it. Wealth isn't earned in the way you've been taught. It's extracted. And I'm not talking about theft in the legal sense. I'm talking about systematic psychological extraction of your most valuable resources, your time, your attention, your emotional energy, and your decision-making capacity. Think about what you actually own. You own your labor, your focus, your choices. The rich have simply become architects of systems that harvest these things from you without you ever realizing they're being taken. They don't need to steal your money directly. They've designed pathways where you willingly surrender it while feeling like you're making free choices. This extraction happens through one mechanism. They've learned to weaponize human nature. Human beings operate on predictable psychological patterns. We seek status. We fear loss. We compare ourselves to others. We crave certainty. We follow authority. We want to belong. These aren't flaws. They're just part of how we're wired. But when you understand that you're wired this way, when you see that these patterns can be triggered, manipulated, and exploited, you start to see the architecture of control. The wealthy operate from a different set of rules. They understand that the majority of human decisions are made below conscious awareness. They know that emotion drives action far more than logic. They comprehend that once you've invested in something, you'll defend it regardless of whether it serves you. They recognize that scarcity, whether real or manufactured, creates panic and removes rational thought. This is the knowledge gap between the controlled and the controllers. Here's where it gets darker. This extraction isn't accidental. It's intentional. It's methodical. Systems are designed specifically to harvest from you. Every notification on your phone is engineered psychology. Every advertisement you see has been tested thousands of times to find the exact psychological trigger that makes you want to buy something you don't need. Every financial product has been constructed to extract fees you don't see. Every social obligation has been designed to keep you competing, comparing, and consuming. The system doesn't extract because it's evil. It extracts because you're predictable. And right now, I want to introduce you to the exact mechanisms, 10 specific tactics that the wealthy deploy, often without you ever knowing they're being deployed. These are the silent chains that keep the average person in orbit around the desires and agendas of those at the top. The first tactic is confusion. Confusion is the foundation of extraction. When your mind is confused, it defaults to authority. It seeks simplicity. It stops asking questions. The wealthy have weaponized complexity. Look at tax codes, financial derivatives, insurance policies, and legal contracts. These aren't complex because they need to be. They're complex because confusion is profitable. When you don't understand something, you're forced to trust someone. and that someone always benefits from keeping you confused. The second tactic is manufactured hope. Hope is the most dangerous tool in the extraction arsenal because hope keeps people compliant. The lottery system isn't designed to make winners. It's designed to keep people believing that they might win. That belief keeps them playing. Every self-help book, every Instagram influencer, every motivational speech operates on this principle. You could be rich, you could be successful, you could be chosen. But the actual pathway to wealth remains hidden. So people consume content, buy courses, follow programs, and hope remains forever just out of reach. The third mechanism is engineered scarcity. Whether it's limited edition products, job opportunities, real estate, or even human attention, the wealthy have mastered the psychology of scarcity. When something is scarce, you stop thinking rationally. Your brain goes into survival mode. Fear of missing out overrides logical analysis. They create artificial urgency and artificial limitation, and you respond by surrendering your judgment and your money. The fourth tactic is debt architecture. Debt is the invisible leash. When you owe something, you're owned. The wealthy understand this perfectly. They structure entire economies around your debt because debt guarantees compliance. A person in debt is predictable. They can't take risks, they can't refuse, they can't build alternative systems. They're forced to keep running on the hamster wheel because the hamster wheel is now mandatory. Debt is intentional psychological enslavement. The fifth mechanism is constant comparison. Social status is a psychological drug. The wealthy have built systems where you're always being compared. Your house compared to your neighbors, your job compared to your peers, your life compared to someone's Instagram highlight reel. This comparison never ends, and it never satisfies because satisfaction would stop consumption. The moment you achieve the status you want, the goalpost moves. New comparison, new scarcity, new need to buy, achieve, and compete. Comparison keeps you perpetually chasing and perpetually inadequate. The sixth tactic is the illusion of choice. You think you're free because you can choose between 10 different options. But if someone else designed all 10 options, you're not choosing. You're selecting from a menu someone else created. This happens in politics, in consumer goods, in career paths, in relationships. The illusion of choice makes compliance feel like freedom. You vote between candidates who serve the same system. You buy between brands owned by the same corporation. You choose between jobs that all extract your time and energy. Freedom requires options outside the system. Most people have never tasted that. The seventh mechanism is weaponized emotion. Logic is slow, emotion is fast. The wealthy know this. Outrage, fear, belonging, shame. These emotions are triggers that override your prefrontal cortex. They're not using logic to convince you. They're using emotion to bypass your critical thinking entirely. A headline creates fear. A group makes you want to belong. A comparison creates shame. And while you're in that emotional state, you act. You vote, you buy, you comply, you surrender your judgment to the emotional wave. The eighth tactic is manufactured authenticity. People hunger for truth. The wealthy have learned to exploit this by creating the appearance of authenticity while maintaining complete control. A CEO becomes a personal brand. A corporation becomes relatable. An extraction system becomes a movement. By appearing authentic, they disarm your skepticism. By seeming like they're one of you, they eliminate your resistance. Manufactured authenticity is more powerful than explicit authority because it feels personal. The ninth mechanism is selective information control. You don't see all the information available. You see only what you're fed. Between algorithms, media ownership, and institutional gatekeeping, your information environment is curated. You're not seeing reality. You're seeing a version of reality designed to keep you compliant. The wealthy have learned that controlling information is more powerful than controlling force. If you don't know something exists, You can't choose it. The 10th tactic is the reframing of exploitation as opportunity. Every extraction is presented as a gift. Every limitation is framed as a feature. Student debt is an investment in yourself. A stressful job is building character. Constant consumption is self-care. Surveillance is convenient. The extraction system has learned to frame itself as beneficial to you, so you don't resist it. You embrace it, you defend it, you police it on others' behalf. These 10 mechanisms don't operate alone. They work together in coordination, they reinforce each other. And they work because they exploit something fundamental about how human beings are built. We're not logical creatures who feel emotion. We're emotional creatures who use logic to justify what we already feel. We're social creatures who fear isolation. We're pattern-matching creatures who mistake familiarity for truth. We're creatures of habit who resist change, even when change serves us. This is the vulnerability the system exploits. But here's what's deeper still. These mechanisms only work because of internal psychological structures that already exist inside you. Understanding the external manipulation is important. But the real power comes from understanding why you're susceptible to it. Why do you obey? Not because anyone is forcing you. You obey because certain psychological patterns in your own mind make obedience feel safe, right, and natural. Fear is the primary driver. Fear of poverty, fear of social exclusion, fear of appearing stupid, fear of loss. The system has engineered your life so that you're perpetually afraid. And when you're afraid, you're controllable. You stop taking risks. You cling to the familiar. You seek authority figures who promise to protect you. You police yourself more harshly than anyone else could ever police you. Fear doesn't require external enforcement. Fear enforces itself. Comparison is the second mechanism. Humans are inherently comparative creatures. We determine our own value by comparing ourselves to others. The system has institutionalized this. Social media is literally a comparison engine. Your salary is compared to your peers' salaries. Your life is a comparison to the lives you see around you. This comparison never produces happiness. It produces chronic inadequacy. And chronic inadequacy keeps you hungry, keeps you striving, keeps you consuming, keeps you desperate. The system doesn't want you to be happy. Happiness is satisfied. The system wants you to be hungry. Hunger is profitable. Guilt is the third layer. The system has embedded guilt deep into your psychology. You feel guilty when you're not productive enough. Guilty when you're not successful enough. Guilty when you want to rest. Guilty when you want to enjoy something without a productive purpose. Guilt has been weaponized as a control mechanism. Every moment of your life is colonized by the sense that you should be doing more, being more, achieving more. This constant guilt keeps you anxious, keeps you compliant, and keeps you exhausted. Emotional reactivity is the fourth pattern. You've been trained to react emotionally to stimuli. An insult creates immediate anger. A threat creates immediate fear. Social rejection creates immediate anxiety. This reactivity removes your agency. When you're reacting, you're not choosing. When you're emotionally activated, your strategic mind is offline. The wealthy have learned to trigger these reactive patterns constantly. They know that an emotionally reactive person is an easily steered person. Approval seeking is the fifth psychological trap. You're wired to seek approval from authority figures and from your group. This is ancient wiring. It kept you alive when exile meant death. But the system has hijacked this wiring. You're seeking approval from systems that don't respect you. You're performing identity for audiences that don't care about you. You're manufacturing a version of yourself designed to be acceptable to people who would replace you instantly if you were no longer profitable. Approval seeking makes you a servant to every system you encounter. Cognitive dissonance is the final psychological vulnerability. Your mind wants consistency. When you're living in a way that contradicts your values, your mind experiences discomfort. The system has learned that you'll distort your own thinking rather than face this discomfort. You'll justify the exploitation you've experienced as necessary. You'll defend systems that harm you. You'll attack people offering you freedom because freedom would require admitting you've been complicit in your own control. The system doesn't need to constantly manipulate you. It just needs to put you in situations where you'll manipulate yourself. These psychological patterns run so deep that you don't experience them as patterns. They feel like your real self. They feel like your actual preferences and values. They feel like your genuine choices. But here's the cruel truth. You're not choosing most of the time. Your identity has been manufactured. Your beliefs have been installed. Your ambitions have been implanted. Your sense of self has been constructed by systems designed to make you predictable, controllable, and profitable. This is the mechanism I need you to understand. Your identity isn't yours. Look at how you define yourself. Professional identity, class identity, relationship identity, consumer identity. These identities were installed in you from childhood. Your parents passed on their beliefs. Your education system taught you what to value. Your culture taught you what success looks like. Your media showed you who to become. Your peers created social pressure around conformity. You absorbed these identity blueprints so completely that you believe they're intrinsic. They're not. They're borrowed. They're implanted. They're designed. And the most insidious part? Once you have an identity, you defend it violently. If someone criticizes your job, you feel personally attacked. If someone questions your beliefs, you feel existentially threatened. If someone offers you an alternative, you respond with resistance and defensiveness. Your manufactured identity has become your fortress. And the system knows this, so it manufactures an identity for you, and then you spend your entire life defending and reinforcing and pursuing that identity, completely unaware that you're enforcing your own imprisonment. This manufactured identity serves a specific function. It makes you willing to enforce your own limits. The system doesn't need guards if you've learned to police yourself. The system doesn't need walls if you've learned to limit your own horizons. You're the primary enforcer of your own control, and the system has optimized this perfectly. Your internalized beliefs, your self-imposed limitations, your chosen constraints, these are far more effective than any external force could ever be. But now we reach the pivot point. Because understanding the machinery of control is only useful if it leads somewhere. Understanding that you're being manipulated is only valuable if you can transform that understanding into actual power. And this is where it becomes dangerous for the system. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know the strings are there, you can't pretend they're not there. So the only option left is to master the strings yourself. The transformation begins with observation. You must develop the capacity to witness your own mind without being controlled by it. Most people are imprisoned inside their own thoughts. They think a thought and immediately believe it's true. They feel an emotion and immediately act on it. They see a person and immediately judge them based on conditioning. You must learn to step outside this automatic process. You must develop what's called the witness consciousness, the ability to observe your thoughts without being them, to witness your emotions without being overwhelmed by them, to notice your patterns without being enslaved to them. This observation reveals something critical. You're not your thoughts. You're the awareness that observes your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're the consciousness that witnesses your emotions. Once this lands, everything changes. Because if you're not your thoughts, then you're not obligated to believe them. If you're not your emotions, then you're not obligated to act on them. You become the sovereign of your own internal space. The second transformation is detachment. You must learn to step back from the things that previously controlled you, your identity, your status, your approval, your outcomes. These things have power over you only because you're attached to them. The moment you become detached, not callous or uncaring, but strategically detached, you become immune to manipulation through these channels. People can't threaten your status if you're not attached to status. People can't shame you if you're not attached to others' opinions. People can't control you through fear of loss if you're detached from what you might lose. This doesn't mean you stop caring about anything. It means you stop needing things to go a certain way to maintain your sense of self. A strategically detached person is the most dangerous person to a control system because they have no psychological leverage point. You can't threaten them. You can't shame them. You can't lure them with hope. You can't control them through guilt. They're internally stable. They're strategically unreactive. They're functionally untouchable. The third transformation is the development of strategy. Most people live reactively. Something happens and they react. Someone criticizes them and they defend. A threat appears and they panic. A desire arises and they pursue it. This reactive mode keeps you perpetually overwhelmed and perpetually in someone else's game. Strategy changes this. Strategy means you're playing your own game. You're operating from a long-term vision. You're thinking several moves ahead. You're making decisions based on your own objectives, not based on immediate emotional triggers. A strategic mind is a powerful mind. The fourth transformation is discipline. This is where most people fail. Understanding is easy. Change is hard. You can see the strings but still feel compelled to obey them. You can recognize the manipulation but still feel the pull toward compliance. You need discipline to bridge this gap. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is fidelity to your own standards. It's the capacity to do what serves you even when you don't feel like doing it. It's the ability to not do what harms you, even when it's tempting. This is where intention becomes reality. The fifth transformation is developing inner stillness. The system wants you agitated. Agitated people are reactive people. Agitated people make poor decisions. Agitated people seek external solutions to internal disturbances. An agitated person is a person being controlled. You must learn to access a state of internal calm that isn't dependent on external circumstances. Not suppressed calm, not numbed calm, but genuine, resourced, strategic calm. From this place you can see clearly. You can think beyond the immediate. You can respond instead of react. The sixth transformation is economic independence. This is non-negotiable. As long as you're financially dependent, you're controlled. As long as you need the system to survive, you have no real freedom. You must develop multiple income streams. You must reduce unnecessary expenses. You must build reserves. You must create optionality. Economic independence isn't about being rich. It's about not being forced. It's about being able to say no. It's about having alternatives. A person with alternatives is a person with power. The seventh transformation is selective exposure. You cannot remain sane in an insane environment. You must control what enters your mind. The average person is a passive receptor for information. They consume whatever comes to them. They watch whatever's recommended. They follow whoever's in front of them. This is suicide in a world designed to extract from you. You must become ruthlessly selective. Audit your information sources. Ask who benefits from you believing this. Curate your social environment. Spend time only with people who elevate you or with whom you have strategic advantage. Guard your attention like it's your most valuable possession, because it is. Once these internal transformations happen, you're ready for what comes next. You're ready to move from defense to offense. You're ready to stop just protecting yourself and start actually wielding power. This is where knowledge becomes leverage. The leverage starts with understanding incentives. Everyone is incentivized. No one operates from a vacuum. Every person is motivated by something: power, money, status, belonging, security, autonomy. The wealthy understand that if you can understand someone's incentive structure, you can predict their behavior and even shape it. They know that people will do almost anything if the incentive is right. So, the first lesson in wielding power is to understand what people actually want, not what they say they want. Most people don't even know their own incentive structure. They operate from scripts they don't even realize they're running. Once you can see someone's real incentive structure, you can work with it or against it. The second lever is timing. Timing is often more important than the action itself. You can be right, but if you're early, you're wrong. You can be asking for something reasonable, but if the timing is wrong, you get rejected. The wealthy have learned that understanding the rhythm of systems, the mood of people, the cycles of economics, the seasons of social behavior, this is the operating manual for power. They move when systems are vulnerable. They strike when people are distracted. They ask when someone is in a favorable state. They understand that the same action at different times produces completely different results. Timing is power. The third lever is the power of silence. Most people are addicted to noise. They fill silence with talking, with content, with stimulation. This noise addiction is a vulnerability. The wealthy use silence strategically. They don't respond immediately to provocations. They don't fill every space in a conversation. They don't explain themselves. This silence is disorienting to people because it violates social convention. It makes people uncertain about where they stand. It forces people to fill the void, often revealing information or committing themselves to positions they didn't need to commit to. Silence is an information-gathering tool. Silence is a power play. The fourth lever is creating artificial scarcity. You now understand that scarcity controls behavior. The wealthy don't just benefit from scarcity, they create it. They create scarcity of their own time, their own attention, their own commitment. By making themselves unavailable, they become more valuable. By limiting what they offer, they increase its perceived worth. By being selectively generous and selectively withdrawn, they keep people perpetually motivated to regain their favor. This isn't cruel. It's an operating principle of human psychology. Scarcity is attractive. The fifth lever is impeccable boundary setting. Boundaries are where power is established. Without boundaries, people encroach. Without boundaries, you're available for everyone. Without boundaries, you're constantly giving. The wealthy understand that they're in control of the boundaries in every interaction. They decide what they will and won't tolerate. They decide what they will and won't offer. They decide when relationships start and end. They're not rude about their boundaries, they're just clear. And this clarity is respected. Boundaries create distance. Distance creates respect. These leverage points work both offensively and defensively. Defensively, you're protecting yourself from being manipulated through these same channels. Understanding timing means you won't be rushed into bad decisions. Understanding incentives means you won't be confused about why people are trying to control you. Understanding scarcity means you won't panic when something is presented as limited. Offensively, these same principles let you navigate systems and people with power. You become the person who understands the rules well enough to play the game from a position of advantage. But leverage only matters if you have somewhere to direct it. So now we move to environmental control. You can be enlightened and still be imprisoned. You can be aware and still be controlled if you remain in a controlling environment. The system wants you to believe that you're free within the system. You're not. The environment shapes behavior. The environment shapes thought. The environment shapes identity. So you must engineer your environment. This is the fortress principle. Your people are the first component of your engineered environment. You cannot remain sane around insane people. You cannot maintain clarity around those who demand you stay confused. You cannot build power around those who need you to stay weak. You must ruthlessly audit your social circle, who's actually elevating you, who's actually respecting your boundaries, who's actually invested in your autonomy. Everyone else is a potential threat. This doesn't mean you need to cut people off brutally. It means you need to understand who you're dealing with and have strategic relationships with them, not intimate ones. Your habits are the second component. Your daily rituals engineer your identity and your mental state. A person who wakes up reactive, scrolls social media, eats poorly, sits for hours without movement, consumes sensationalized news, and goes to bed wired is a person being engineered by the system. Your habits should be ruthlessly optimized. Morning routines that ground you. Movement that oxygenates your brain. Information sources that actually serve you. Evening routines that let you sleep deeply. Your habits either serve your autonomy or they serve the system. Your inputs are the third component. What you consume becomes you. This isn't metaphorical. Your brain runs on information. If you're feeding it algorithmic content, sensationalized news, and manufactured outrage, you will be an algorithmic, reactive person. You must become obsessively selective about your inputs. What books do you read? Who do you listen to? What podcasts do you consume? What media do you engage with? Every single input is a choice. Every choice shapes your neurology. Every input is either feeding your clarity or feeding your confusion. Your digital exposure is the final frontier of environmental control. Digital spaces are designed to be addictive. They're designed to harvest your attention. They're designed to make you predictable. You must ruthlessly limit your digital exposure, not completely, but intentionally. Specific times, specific purposes, specific limits. Your phone should be a tool you control, not a device that controls you. Your social media should be a platform you use strategically, not a habit that uses you. Your browsing should serve a purpose, not fill time. If you can't control your relationship with digital inputs, you cannot be free, because digital inputs are the system's primary weapon. And now we arrive at the final transformation. You're observing, you're detached, you're disciplined, you're economically independent, you're protecting your environment. You understand the mechanisms of manipulation, you understand leverage. But there's one more role you must step into. You must become the strategic predator. I'm not using the word predator to be shocking. I'm using it because it's accurate. A predator is a being that operates from genuine self-interest. A predator doesn't apologize for its nature. A predator doesn't seek permission. A predator is alert, aware, and ready to seize opportunity. A predator doesn't blame others for its circumstances. A predator adapts. The system wants you to feel shame about your own power. It wants you to apologize for ambition. It wants you to feel guilty about success. It wants you to self-limit, because self-limitation is profitable for them. The moment you stop apologizing for your own power, the moment you stop limiting yourself to make others comfortable, the moment you embrace strategic self-interest, you become untouchable. This doesn't mean you become cruel. Cruelty is reactive. Cruelty is what weak people do when they finally get power. Strategic self-interest is calm, it's intelligent, it's discriminating. A strategic person doesn't harm others without reason, but they also don't sacrifice themselves for others' comfort. A strategic person makes decisions based on their own objectives and then executes those decisions with commitment. Their presence itself becomes a warning to those who would control them. You become the type of person who doesn't apologize, doesn't explain, doesn't justify, and doesn't compromise on essentials. This is what it means to be unreadable. An unreadable person is someone whose next move cannot be predicted based on emotional or social triggers. An unreadable person is calm in crisis. An unreadable person is unmoved by provocation. An unreadable person is secure in their own objectives, so they don't need external validation. An unreadable person is dangerous, not because they're aggressive, but because they can't be manipulated. And when you can't be manipulated, you hold all the cards in any negotiation. The role transformation is complete when you stop performing for the system and start operating according to your own strategy. When you stop seeking approval and start demanding respect. When you stop reacting and start acting. When you stop being a piece on the board and start being the player moving the pieces. This is the shift from victim to operator, from controlled to controller, from reactive to strategic. This shift is irreversible once it's genuine. Once you've tasted real autonomy, you can never truly go back to sleeping in the chains. But here's the final confrontation. Here's where you face the actual choice. Everything you've learned in this moment is a map, a map to freedom, a map to power, a map to autonomy. But a map isn't the territory. A map is just ink and paper until someone actually walks the terrain. You now know the system extracts from you. You know how it does it. You know why you've been complicit. You know how to break free. But knowing and doing are two different universes. This is where most people fail. They hear the truth, they feel the shift, and then they return to their old patterns because change is hard and comfort is seductive. The system is comfortable. The cage has become home. The chains have become like old friends. And the terror of stepping outside the cage is greater than the terror of staying inside it. So most people choose comfort. They choose the familiar. They choose the known prison over the uncertain freedom. The choice is yours. Stay comfortable and controlled. Wake up every day in the pattern you've inherited. Perform the identity you didn't choose. Obey the rules you never agreed to, and spend your entire life serving a system that views you as nothing more than an extraction point. Or embrace the harsh truth. Refuse the chains. Reclaim your psychological autonomy. Build a life structured around your own objectives. Become someone who can't be controlled. Become someone who can't be manipulated. Become someone the system must work around instead of working through. This choice is yours and only yours. No one can make it for you. No one can force you into freedom. No one can rescue you. But if you're ready, if you can feel the truth of this, if you can feel that something has been fundamentally wrong and you've been searching for the language to articulate it, if you're choosing power over comfort, if you're choosing autonomy over approval, then comment right now, "I refuse the chains," like this video. Subscribe to this channel, because what you're building here is a community of people who see the strings and refuse to be strung. You're not alone in this. Thousands of people are awakening. Thousands of people are refusing. Thousands of people are reclaiming themselves, and each person who refuses becomes a beacon for the next person who is ready to wake up. The system cannot control an awakened mind. It cannot control someone who understands its mechanisms. It cannot control someone willing to sacrifice comfort for autonomy. The moment you step out of the pattern, the moment you refuse the chains, you've already won. Because the system's greatest weapon isn't force. You believe that it's inevitable. The moment you stop believing that, the moment you see an alternative, the moment you're willing to build it, you've transcended the game entirely. You are not meant to be controlled. You are not meant to be predictable. You are not meant to obey. You are not meant to apologize for your power. The system will tell you otherwise. The system will make you feel like you're wrong for wanting freedom. Ignore this. The system doesn't want you. The system wants your compliance. And if you're reading this, if you're listening to this, if this is resonating in your chest, then you were never meant to comply. Reclaim yourself. Refuse the chains. Become the untouchable operator you were born to be. This is not inspiration. This is not motivation. This is revolution. Quiet, internal, psychological revolution. This is what freedom actually looks like.